Hello and welcome to our Cancer Research and Precision Oncology MSc programme Q&A session. We are recording the session today, so don't panic if you don't catch everything, we will share it afterwards. And we're joined by Laura Richmond, who's going to chat through all things MSc. So if you do have any questions, please do use the chat box and we'll do our best to cover off all of those. And we've also got some questions that have been submitted beforehand too. What I will say is this isn't a session that will cover anything to do with sort of finance, scholarships, accommodation, but I'll put some useful links into the chat box. And we've also got our online postgraduate event coming up on this Thursday, the 6th of March. So I'll put the details in there for that. But yeah, Laura, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the MSc?
Yes, hello. So as Naomi says, my name's Laura Richmond. I'm the programme director, or one of the programme directors for the Cancer Research and Precision Oncology programme, also for our new Cancer Research with Specialisms programme. And I'm the postgraduate teaching lead for the School of Cancer Sciences. So the Cancer Research and Precision Oncology programme is, if you like, a broad strokes cancer programme where we try to really give you a deep dive into all things cancer biology, right through from the kind of foundational concepts to the role of the tumour microenvironment, to some of the precision oncology approaches that are used clinically, and to some of the advances that are ongoing, and gives you a chance to embark on a project that takes your interest.
Great. And whereabouts are the classes typically held?
So for the Cancer Research and Precision Oncology programme, and actually for all of the cancer sciences programmes, we teach up on the Garscube campus, which is up slightly further west than the main university building. Beautiful campus, very, very scenic, lots of sort of parkland surrounding us. So a lovely place to go for a walk on your lunch break as well when the sun's out.
It's a good place to dog spot as well. Everybody's always walking their dogs.
Excellent place for dog spotting. We've got the vet school and the small animal hospital up here as well, so there's usually a surplus of animals.
Yeah, it's good fun. And I know this is a difficult question to answer because it can vary week on week and semester to semester.
Yeah.
But how many days, how many hours should students expect to be in classes?
So for our top classes, so how often will you be on campus? Generally, this will be 3 days a week for the first sort of two semesters of teaching. The exact days might vary, but generally you'll be in 3 days a week. I try to always leave a couple of days in the timetable for catching up with reading and doing things, working on assessments. And that'll typically be either a morning or an afternoon. So you'll not usually be in for the full day, just because obviously we do cover a lot of material in class, you cover a lot of different topics, and we don't want to overload anybody by doing 6 different lectures in a day. So you usually be in sort of 3 half days, but the bulk of your time, in terms of working on the masters, you'd be expected to do a lot of independent working. Obviously, this is at postgraduate level, so it's not quite as it's not quite as given to you as an undergraduate might be, but we would expect you to be doing a lot of independent working in your own time.
Fab. And do you find, do students set up like their own sort of Teams group or like WhatsApps group and stuff to just kind of keep in touch and help each other?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I do at the start of every year is I'll set up a Teams group for the whole cohort. That'll give you access to a Teams channel for every different course that you've got as part of the programme. It'll give you access to various channels for study groups and mentoring. And then from within that, usually we find that the students will set themselves up a wee WhatsApp group to keep track of things as well. But we tend to find that the Teams channel is really well used and it's a really easy, quick way of getting that sort of instant feedback. Can certainly be faster sometimes than waiting for an email. Because I know my inbox is always full to bursting. Teams is usually a bit faster.
That's good. It means that if you're not in class, you've still got sort of a point of contact there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And do students manage to sort of keep a part-time job while they're doing the MSc? I know it can be difficult.
Yeah, a lot of students do. We have a lot of students who are with us at the moment who have a part-time job while they're studying. we try as best we can to keep the lecture schedule consistent across every week, so that you might know you've got a Wednesday afternoon off, and you can potentially work a Wednesday afternoon. So we do have plenty of students who work part-time while they're doing it. It becomes a little bit more complicated once you start your project, because if you're doing a wet lab project, you're expected to be in the lab kind of a working week. But certainly during teaching time, then it's no bother to take on a part-time job at the same time.
Yeah, that's a nice segue. Can you tell us a bit more about the project? So, how do students go about choosing their topic? When does all that kind of happen? What's the process like?
So it's happening just now at the moment. So typically what we will do is there will be a notice sent out to all of the group leaders, all of the research leaders within the school, and who'll be asked to submit a project. They kind of go into a pool, and that is then opened out to the students, and the students can go in and choose their top 5 preferred projects. And then I'll go through and manually allocate. What I always say to the students is, if there's a person you're really interested in working with, if there's a project that you're really interested in working on, then reach out to them, speak to them after class, drop them an email, send them a message on Teams, and let them know that you're really interested in working with them, because it gives you the opportunity then to kind of shape the project in collaboration with the supervisor, and really put together something that you're really interested in. And supervisors will be absolutely delighted to hear from you, and to have a student who's kind of invested in making the project their own. So we really, really recommend that you do that. It gives you that opportunity to make it your own.
This is maybe putting you on the spot a little bit, but do you have any sort of example kind of titles and what people do their project on?
Oh, exact titles. I'm struggling now to think. So we've looked at various ways of knocking out gene expression in colorectal cancer, and I can't remember exact titles off the top of my head for that one. We've looked at identifying trends in literature of cancer of unknown primaries. We've looked at the role of bone morphogenic proteins in treatment resistance in chronic myeloid leukemia. So there's quite a range, and they range from kind of wet lab investigative that are, at a very molecular genetic level, right through to working with mouse tissues. We have systematic review and meta-analysis type projects where you're focused primarily on literature and kind of data that already exists. We have a selection of kind of more bioinformatic projects, and looking at data analysis. So there's a really wide range of things there as well. Really did put me on the spot with that one.
Sorry, but I think that kind of highlighted really well though, like the different projects. So like whatever your interest is, there's something there for you, which is really good. And in terms of assessment, what kind of different assessments should students expect?
So there are no exams, you'll be delighted to hear. We don't use any exams for this programme. So everything is coursework assessed. So you'll have between 1 and 3 pieces of coursework for every course that you're doing. And the courses all run subsequent to one another. So there's never an overlap in when you're doing courses. So you're not going to have assessment due for 3 different courses at the same time. In terms of types of assessment, it can be anything from designing and presenting a scientific poster through to critically reviewing a published manuscript, through to writing up a kind of mock grant proposal. And of course, the kind of most significant piece of assessed work that you'll do is your project, where you're assessed by a written report, so a sort of a research output, if you like, that will take the form of a typical research paper, research article. You will also present your project outcomes to a team of assessors, team of 2, that sounds a bit scary, it's usually a team of 2 assessors, and you'll have a grade from your supervisor as well. They'll grade you based on your kind of performance and things through the project. So it's quite varied. You'll get an opportunity to do lots of different things. So if you don't love presenting, then you've got lots of opportunities to showcase your skills in written assessment. If you really love presenting, then there's lots of opportunities for you to excel in your presentation skills as well.
Ah, nice and varied. And Do students get access to the sort of course material before classes?
So in terms of the course material, that's a sort of tricky one to define. So we don't have any sort of textbooks, because of the nature of the subject area. It's always moving. So the sort of recommended reading, if you like, isn't this textbook or that textbook. It's going to be some of the most up to date literature in the field at that point. So I would say students have access to any of the literature they want. As soon as you've got your GUID, you've got access to so that's your Glasgow University ID. So as soon as you are a student of the university, you have access to I can't even remember how many journals it is now, but you have access to a lot of primary material that you can go and start reading up on. You can always drop me an email, or for I was going to say for the specialisms program lead, which is also me. You can drop me an email and ask if there's anything in particular that would be good to look at. We host all of our teaching materials through a virtual learning environment called Moodle, which you typically just get access to about a week before the course starts. But as I said, we don't have a kind of recommended reading list in the strictest sense. So while I would absolutely recommend going and doing some reading before you start, it's not a prescriptive list of things that you need to read.
Perfect. And we've been asked, is there any sort of practical work throughout the MSc?
Yeah, so the most significant component of practical work obviously is going to be your project. Um, whether that is a practical wet lab skill, so you're actually in the lab carrying out the experiments, or it's practical skills in data analysis and in sort of data handling and bioinformatics, or the sort of practicality of doing something like a systematic review or meta-analysis, even if you're not sort of physically hands-on in the lab because you choose to do a more literature-based project, that's still sort of a practical skill that you would be coming out with. During the top materials, you have one course which is called Core Skills in Cancer Research, and that involves a week of lab time. So it's obviously it's not an exhaustive uh, experience in terms of practical skills, but it's intended to get everybody in the cohort kind of up to the same level of practical skills, because some students will come in having had quite a lot of lab experience, and some students might come in having had no lab experience, and that's absolutely fine. But we just want to make sure that everybody's at the same baseline before they start their project. But the bulk of the practical work that you'll get will be during your project.
Great. And in terms of after the MSc, what sort of careers do students go on to do?
Oh, a little bit of everything. So we have a lot of students who will move on to doctoral study, who'll go on and do a PhD. It's always quite nice. We've got a few every year who'll end up doing a PhD here, and so I get to see them year on year. There's one that I work quite closely with who was one in my first cohort when I started, who's just about to finish her PhD. So we have a lot of doctoral candidates. We have students who move into sort of more industrial research, who might go and work in R&D for various sort of facets of industry, potentially in pharmaceuticals. We have students that might go on to working in something like a medical communications role, be that in medical writing, in sort of more public engagement and writing for the public. You might choose to go on to something like a medical science liaison type role, where you're coordinating with clinicians and with R&D, with a bit of additional training. We have medics who are training to become medical oncologists, who might do this as part of their training. Clinical scientists, the list goes on.
Yeah, that's quite a mix.
Yeah.
I always find it amazing when you hear the different options that people can go to, because it's not like a couple of things. There's loads.
No, absolutely, and I love seeing what people do go on and do, because it is so varied.
Yeah,
It's really interesting.
yeah. Um, and in terms of September's not far off, is there anything that students can be doing before they start that you would recommend they do, just to sort of set them up for the sort of best start they can?
Yeah, absolutely. Take a look at some papers. Do a little bit of reading, even if you don't understand everything that's in the papers. Get used to reading the scientific literature. because if that's not something you've got loads of experience with, that can be a little bit of an adjustment, is getting used to reading science, if that makes sense, rather than reading it out of textbooks. It's quite easy to digest, going actually looking at the primary literature because it's written quite differently. There's a great platform called Future Learn that you can sign up for, and there are a few courses that you can do through Future Learn that look at various facets of cancer science. If you feel that you maybe want to just bring your knowledge up to speed, or if you've even had a break from study for a while and you just want to refresh your memory, that's a really good platform as well. That's about all I can think of.
Yeah, and in terms of like just other things, we always say students try and get here as early as you can, and get
Absolutely.
set up with like your accommodation, register with a doctor, all those things, because once they are sorted, you can forget all about them and just concentrate on your studies. Um,
Yeah.
we do have some time, so if anybody watching has got any sort of questions, please do pop them into the chat. I'm just having a wee look at the questions that we've had, and you've flown through them, Laura. We've covered everything off there. I'm trying to think, is there anything at all that you feel that we've not touched on that we should mention, or we've got a wee bit of time, that if there's anything you wanted to give more information on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that I would mention is, don't worry too much if your background is not already in cancer, or if you've not studied much cancer biology already. Our students come from a really varied academic background. So we have students come in who have done things like immunology, or biomedical sciences, the sort of subjects that segue quite nicely into cancer sciences. But we also have some really successful pharmacists who've come in, who have much more limited cancer backgrounds. We obviously have medics. We have a spectrum of students. So I guess don't think that because you've not done it before you can't do it, really. As long as you've got the kind of molecular background, then give it a bash.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind, like if you've been given an offer for the University of Glasgow, there's obviously something in your sort of CV and education history that shows that you're capable of doing it. So have a bit of confidence in yourself. We've not had any more questions, and I think everything there has been covered. For anybody that has applied, we are sort of running our applications in a round system. So if you've not had your sort of any sort of update on your offer yet, just be patient. We are getting through those offers, and you should hear. On our website, we've got our different dates there, sort of noted, so you should get an idea of when you should hear your decision by. Um, but yeah, I think we can give you some time back in your diary, Laura, because I know you've got a busy day. But like I said, if you've got any further questions, don't panic that you've not asked them here. The our program webpage on our website has got the administration email address. So if you do have any questions, do send them there, and our administration teams are brilliant at directing those questions and getting you the answer that you need. And like I said, the postgraduate event is on Thursday, so do join that if you've got any sort of questions about financing your studies and things like that. But yeah, thanks very much, Laura, for taking your time, and thanks to those that have joined the webinar, and hopefully we'll see you all come September. Thanks very much. Bye bye.
Right.